Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us again here on Bracy Sports Media. My name is Aaron Bracy, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by PGA Tour golfer Vince Covello. Vince is a Delaware County, Pennsylvania native who moved to Florida when he was 17 years old. After 15 years as a golf professional, Vince finally achieved his dream and earned his PGA Tour card this year. He's a 37-year-old rookie on the PGA Tour, and Vince is brought to us today by his sponsors, Mura Golf and William Mary. Vince, thanks so much for joining us here today on Bracy Sports Media.
Of course, glad to be here, Aaron.
If you like our videos, please download our podcast, Bracy Sports Media, wherever you get your podcast. If you are listening on the podcast, you can watch this on YouTube on Bracy Sports Media. Vince, let's get right into it. If I say the date, Sunday, August 9th, 2019, North Plains, Oregon, Pumpkin Ridge Golf Club, what comes to mind?
A dream. It's a day I'll never forget. I mean, I got lucky enough to have some of my very close people out there with me, and it was just a surreal day. I mean, you know, my whole life since I've been probably 13, 14 years old, I've been dreaming about playing the PGA Tour card, and that was one of the happiest days of my life for sure. That
was the day the Korn Ferry Tour awarded the top 25 regular season finishers tour cards for this year for the PGA Tour card. Vince, you earned that card by a couple of top 10 finishes and your first Korn Ferry victory last year at the Louisiana Open, which you had to come back from 3 down with 4 to go and then actually hit the ball in the water on your, I believe, first playoff hole. Talk about overcoming adversity and what that win really did for your career.
Well, obviously, you know, a win on the Korn Ferry Tour gets you a jump start to getting the PGA Tour card. It was a fantastic week all in all. I mean, I played some great golf. I was leading after 18 holes and 36 holes, and I shot 67, which I think is 3 or 4 under on Saturday, and somehow ended up being 2 shots behind after that. So I had a 2-shot deficit starting the final round, and then I believe I 3-putted the very first hole, a par 5, to make bogey, and it went right to 3 shots. And I kind of just kept telling myself, it's a long day, just hang in there and just make sure you're in there at the end and see what happens. And sure enough, you know, I kind of was hanging around. I think I took a look at the scoreboard around 14 or 15 and saw, you know, I was playing with the guy who was leading, Justin Lauer, so I knew how many strokes I was behind him. But to look at the leaderboard and see that I was, you know, 1 shot inside the top 10 with 4 holes to play, after such a great week, meaning that 1 more slip up and I don't even get a top 10 out of the tournament.
Right.
And, you know, it just kind of fired me up a little bit at the end there. I made a long putt on 16 for birdie on a par 3, and then just missed on 17, and then hit a great wedge into 18 to about 2 feet to force the playoff. And then, yeah, in the playoff hole, the first playoff hole is a dogleg right, kind of fairway pitching away from you to the left, and there's a little pond over there. I hit a really solid, good straight ball down the left edge of the fairway, and it just never cut for me, and bounced about 3 or 4 times it ended up just trickling into the water. And I took my drop, and it was kind of under a tree. So I kept telling myself and my caddy that, you know, it wasn't over yet. You never know what's going to happen. So I just hit the best shot I could from underneath the tree, and it ended up on the same line as my opponent, as his birdie putt. And I got a nice read off of him, and then he had just missed his birdie putt to end it, and I stepped up and made my 10, 12-foot par putt to extend. And then I think about that time, that's when I knew, you know, momentum was really on my side. The way I caught him at the end with the 2 birdies late, and then doing that on the first playoff hole, I'm sure he was a little flustered maybe by that, but you know, he didn't give me anything. He hit good birdie putts the whole playoff, all 3 playoff holes, and you know, I just finally stuck one in there again on the 3rd playoff hole to about 4 or 5 feet. So it's nice to have a little shorty with a chance to win, but still a nervous putt, you know?
It's interesting that you said you never gave up. You could probably say that about your career as a professional golfer, because you, I'm guessing, probably went through many ups and downs trying to get to your dream, and it probably would have been easy to give up at some point. What kept you going?
I think my support group around me, my family and my really good friends, and the fact that internally I still believed I was good enough to play on the PGA Tour, and I wanted it bad enough that I was willing to give up a lot of things in my life to keep chasing it. And everybody has to get a real job at some point, whether it be in the golfing world or in an office or something. But until you get to the PGA Tour, it's tough to make a living. The Korn Ferry Tour gives you a good opportunity if you play well and you have a good season all year long. But the mini tours, as I was coming up through the ranks, it's just about trying to break even and extend your dream as long as you can, and then finally you hit oil, or you hit the jackpot, and you end up where you feel like you're supposed to be. And I'm super thrilled to have a look at it this year, and probably into next year now with all the the suspension of play that we had due to coronavirus. And I think they're going to push some of our starts back to next year no matter what, so to give everybody a fair chance.
You mentioned your family. After you won last year, you pointed skyward to your father. Could you tell the listeners why you did that and what your dad meant to you as far as your career, and what that victory would have meant for him to be there, and also just having him kind of experience it from up above?
Sure. My dad has been, like most guys, I think, or he's been a hero in my life, and an idol to look up to. And he was such a great man and instilled so many great qualities into me. And he was the first one that I wanted to thank for helping me get to where I was. And he had, such a huge part. He's your dad. He's my dad. I can't even begin to describe how much he's given me and how much he's done for me to push my career forward. And he's just somebody that I think about every day. And he was an athlete himself. He played baseball for a little while before he came out of the Army and started having kids. And so I was proud to share my success with him as an athlete and as a son, and as somebody that remembers him every day.
Vince Covello, PGA Tour rookie, joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. All right, Vince, I would like to talk about the PGA Tour, but before we do that, I wanted to take a step back to your childhood. You grew up in the area, having played at Lanark Country Club before moving to Florida when you were 17 years old. And I'm wondering if you could tell us about what it was like to grow up at Lanark. Obviously a very challenging golf course, a lot of very good players there growing up. How did playing at Lanark and playing with probably many very good players help your development?
It was huge. I think that that not only created the competitive atmosphere that I grew up in over there at Lanark, but also the friends that I've made through the years. And they've been a big part of the support group too. I talk to a lot of people from back there all the time, and they keep telling me to keep going after it. And Lanark's golf course itself is a true gem, and a difficult challenge every day you step on the tee there. And I think that bled so much into my game, as that's where I learned the game growing up. It was something that you learned that you always had to play all 18 holes, because there was a lot of presses that went down on 18 tee box, and let alone how to play the game and maneuver the golf ball around and get it in the hole. I think it's a great challenge out there, and they've done great things over at Lanark Country Club, and they've always been so welcoming to have me back every year when I stop back in. And so I'm very thankful for them at Lanark Country Club, and it's played such a huge part in my life growing up. I cherish it. I really cherish it. It's they helped shape who I was as a person over there,
And then you also cherish your love of Philadelphia sports, which you wear literally on your head during your rounds. Why do you wear the Philadelphia? I guess you wear different Phillies or Eagles hats. And how much do you love the Philly teams?
I'm just super proud to be a Philadelphian. I think, there's a responsibility that goes with coming from our city, that you got to be hard nosed, you got to work hard, you got to give it your best, and you got to fight all the way to the end. And I think that's something that I take pride in our sports teams at home, and the way that I try to handle myself under tournament conditions out there. And, I love watching the Phillies. I love watching the Eagles and the Flyers and the Sixers too. Everybody's great. We have a great sports city, and, let alone those four teams, there's plenty of other stuff going on with college sports all the time too in that town. And, sports has been just such a big part of my life growing up. I love it. And I've been lucky to have, and witness a lot of good teams growing up there in Philadelphia.
Vince Covello, PGA Tour rookie, joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. Okay, Vince, let's talk about your season this year on the PGA Tour. You earned your tour card, and then A week later, you were after the Corn Ferry Finals. You were right into the PGA Tour season. Your first start was at the Greenbrier, where you opened with rounds of 67, 67, and you must have been thinking, "Man, this is pretty cool, pretty easy."
Mm-hmm.
Then you made the cut and finished tied for 47th. What was that experience like?
Well, it was awesome. I mean, one, to get the first cut under your belt early was fantastic, and I was obviously super excited and couldn't wait to get started. So the 67s were a great way to start my season, and I only shot 71-70 on the weekend, which is one over par, and I went from like 19th or 18th or something all the way back to 47th. So it's a highly competitive world out there. There's no time for shooting over par, and that's something I've learned through the game coming up the last 15 years is you better be able to shoot in the 60s every day if you want to succeed in golf. And it was a great way to get started. It's a great venue. I was sorry to see that it came off the schedule for this next year's fall series. But hopefully I'll get the chance to get back there and enjoy that place a little more. There's so much going on at Greenbrier. There's so many things to do there. It's a great place to visit.
Did those first two rounds tell you something about yourself and tell you something about how you will be able to compete on the highest level?
Sure. I think good golf is good golf no matter where you go. It's just getting used to your surroundings a little bit and understanding the conditions that are going to be presented to you as far as the golf course and, the crowds and who you're playing with and all those kind of things. It's a new world, even though I've been playing professional golf for 15 years. When you jump a level, it's the same as going from high school to college sports or college sports to professional. It's a new world. It's new people around you, a lot more things coming at you. And, but all in all, when you step on that first tee to play, the world should go quiet in your head. And all you're trying to do is get your little white ball in the hole. And, I managed to do that for the first couple of days there. And then the weekend, it didn't quite go in as best as I wanted to, but I know my game's capable of holding up out there and holding its own on the PGA Tour.
And then as the calendar turned to 2020, you started playing in events where you saw more of the top tier players. In fact, in San Diego, I think you were three tee times away from Tiger Woods, and you were right next to Rory McIlroy on the range. What were those experiences like for you?
It's really cool. I mean, it's such a, you watch these guys on TV every week and you see how good they are, and then you get to see it in person, and it's it's something special to be out there. It's a real blessing and a gift, and I hope to take advantage of it when I get the chance to get back out there and start playing again. But yeah, Rory he was hitting drivers next to me on the driving range, and the ball never came down out of the air. It was in the air longer than anybody else's, and the crowds following Tiger Woods were insane. Two of my good buddies from Jacksonville here actually got paired with him. So they had to deal with it way more than I did. But, even being 3 holes away, you saw the crowds. They were moving into place, a couple holes up in front to try and get ready for Tiger to come through. And, that affected my group a little bit, or crossing paths with them. But, it's part of being out there, and it's fun. It's fun to play in front of that many people.
One of the cool things about that event, and one of your highlights of the year, was you draining a 50-foot putt on 18. And I believe it was Rich Lerner who commentated touchdown Eagles as the ball went in the hole. What was that like, just actually being in the moment and then watching the highlight and hearing the commentating?
Yeah, of course, when I'm doing that in the moment, I don't get to hear the comments on it.
Right.
But, I thought that was pretty cool of Rich. And he's a big Philly guy. He took the time out to pull me aside in Greenbrier and say hello and introduce himself and tell me that he was a big fan and, a Philly guy himself. And, at the time I didn't know that was going to be the last shot I was going to hit for a while, but it was a good way to go off, I guess, making a 50-footer on 18 in front of everybody. It was really ironic because, I'd missed some very short putts, some 3-4 foot putts coming in on, I think it was 15 and 16 back-to-back holes that kind of pushed me out of the cut line, which was tough because that was, Torrey Pines golf course is a beast. It is a big golf course. And I was hanging in there tough as long as I could. I didn't quite have my best stuff, but, hung in there tough. And then to miss a couple short putts down the end of the day just really kills you on Friday. And then all of a sudden that one goes in on 18, and it was like, oh gosh, well, it doesn't quite make up for the short missed ones, but it was a nice treat to walk off and, hear the cheers and the crowd going nuts for that one. So it was neat.
Vince Covello, PGA Tour rookie, joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. Vince, you mentioned that was the last putt you hit this year. You had some injury issues last year that kind of lingered, and finally you had to shut it down. What happened, and where do you stand right now?
I have a minor herniation of a disc down in L5-S1, which is in the lower portion of my back. It's something that's been bugging me for a couple of years now, and I've been playing through it, and it just, it progressively kind of got just a little bit worse, month after month, and it wasn't getting any better with all the rehab stuff I was trying and the treatments I was doing on it. And this had started, probably last June is when it really started to bother me, but I had already won the Chittimacha, Louisiana Open in April, or end of March, I guess. And so I kind of had to keep playing through it because, like I said earlier, that puts you on a fast track to get the PGA Tour card. So as long as I didn't, fully break the rest of the season, I was going to get to the tour. If I just could kind of hang in there and do my thing for a couple more good weeks. And, I had a couple top 25s. I think I had a fourth and then a top 10 in Wichita that basically locked it up for me. So I just playing through it last year, I kind of had to manage it as best I could. I skipped a couple of weeks here and there to, make sure I wasn't playing more than 3 weeks in a row. But, you don't get that freedom as a rookie on the PGA Tour. You have to play whenever they tell you to play, whether that be seven or 8 straight weeks or whatever. And when you show up, you gotta bring your best stuff. I mean, there's no time to, as a rookie, when you're in what we call a reshuffle category, they re-rank you every couple of weeks according to how many FedEx Cup points you've made. That determines the pecking order of who gets in specific tournaments, depending on field size and those kind of things. So, you're playing still for your livelihood out there. Just because you're on the tour doesn't mean you're fully on the tour and in every week's tournament. So you still got to earn your right to play in the big events and stuff like that. And so, I tried for 8 events or 9 events this year, and I made the cut in Greenbrier. I missed the next couple. I probably missed like a handful of them, 4 or 5 by 1 or 2 shots. So I was right there, but still dealing with the back and not having the full skill set that I'm used to having. It was trying to deal with stuff that, and find another way to get it done kind of thing. And it just ended up being too much at one point. So, it's best for me to just sit back and try and get this back in shape so I can give it my best shot out there. I mean, I waited so long to get to the PGA Tour. I certainly want to make sure I give it my best shot.
So does this give you an extra year to play? How does the medical extension work?
So no, not necessarily a full year. And this is even more strange with the COVID-19 that's going around and the suspension of the season and now the restart that's supposed to happen in June 8th, Colonial Week. It basically, the medical guarantees whatever events I miss being out with injury that I would have gotten into off my ranking number, that I would get to play in those events the following season. Not necessarily those specific events, but that number of events. So I can use those missed events. Say I missed 6 events because of that. I would get to make up those 6 starts wherever, when my back feels good, that's when I should be able to start playing again. So I would have 6 events to still play. And that's just putting a number on it. I don't know what the actual number is. It's right. I think the average number of rookie starts on the PGA Tour is somewhere between 18 and 26. Okay. So they'll do. I've played 9, so I conceivably I could get 9 to 16 events next year or something like that. So we'll see how it all plays out. I know I got to be healthy first and foremost, and whenever they tell me to play, when I'm healthy, I'll be there to it.
Vince Covello joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. Vince is brought to us by his sponsors, Mura Golf and William Mary. All right, Vince, before I let you go, I have one more question for you. Of all the experiences on your journey to the PGA Tour, is there an experience or a memory or a moment that stand out to you the most as either the catalyst to getting where you are, or a point where you were so low that you felt like you were going to be done and you look back and you're like, I persevered through that? Is there a moment or two that really stand out to you from your journey here?
Sure. I would say the low moment in my career was probably It's tough. I mean, you try to forget them really, but
Okay.
you know, in
Sorry to bring it
2013,
up.
no, it's okay. It's in there. I just ignore it, you know. And in 2013, it was the first year I got status on what was then the Web.com tour. It's now Corn Ferry Tour. Um, it had been 10 years of my professional career to get to that point, so I was super thrilled to finally get status on a significant tour. I played the entire season and finished like 110th on the money list, I believe, and lost status, which meant I had to go back to Q school for my 11th straight year, and failed to make it through the first stage of Q school after, you know, spending a full year on the Corn Ferry Tour. And that was really heartbreaking because then I felt like I was progressing, and then all of a sudden I got to go backwards again. And you know, that happens in everybody's life at some point, but in golf, and when you're questioning whether this is what you should be doing for yourself, it's a big expense to take on a year of professional golf. I mean, it adds up pretty quick out there, paying for caddies and airfare and hotels and rental cars and all that kind of stuff. But you know, I wasn't ready to be done yet. I went back and played the Canadian Tour for a year, came back and made it through Q school again. And got conditional status, I believe, in 2015 or 2016. Ended up not getting in any starts. I had to do Monday qualifiers, and which are a pain in the butt. You don't get in a whole lot of tournaments through Monday qualifying. But I'd say, yeah, that end of the 2013 season was probably my low point as far as, you know, just questioning myself and whether I was in the right direction or not, you know, because I finally had to look at a higher level of golf, and you wonder if you're good enough or not. I played okay a couple times out there, but not good enough to keep my status. And so, you know, it took me, you know, a couple more years. I think it was 3 or 4 more years to get my status back on the Corn Ferry Tour in 2017. And even then I was struggling in 2017 and 2018 a little bit, and kind of barely kept my card out there. So the competition is really hard on the Corn Ferry Tour, and the players are really good. And, you know, each week the scores are so low, it's almost 20 under every week out there, unless you get some serious weather or something. But, you know, and then that was tough to go through, but, you know, coming through all that, and then, you know, eventually ending up in Louisiana last year in 2019, Chittimacha, Louisiana Open champion. That's the highlight, and that's what got me to the PGA Tour. So that event holds a special place in my heart. And, that was actually the first event I played in the United States on my 2013 season. And I remember I was playing really well through 36 holes. I made the cut, and then I played really, really poorly on the weekend. So I knew I could play well there. And, you know, this year I just kind of kept it going through the last 2 rounds. So it was that was definitely the high point. And of course, you know, coming off that 18th green, getting showered with drinks from my buddies, and, you know, getting to call my mom and my coach and all that kind of stuff. That was a highlight for sure.
Vince Covello, PGA Tour rookie, joining us here on Bracy Sports Media. Vince, your perseverance is an inspiration to everyone who follows you and roots for you. Everyone in the Philadelphia golf community is pulling for you, and certainly wishing you to get your back healthy and get back out there and do your thing and keep your card this year whenever golf returns. So, Vince, thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for joining us here today on Bracy Sports Media.
Thanks for having me on, Aaron. I appreciate it. And thanks to all the fans in Philadelphia that support me. I really appreciate that too. It means a lot.
If you like our videos, please subscribe and hit the notification button. And you can also download our podcast on Bracy Sports Media. Have a great day, everyone.